Yo, what is going on, everyone? My name is Nick, or the Notorious Fantasy, and in today's extravagant video, I am bringing you guys Fantasy Day Traders episode numero 3. This is week number 3 of the NFL season. We are going to be talking about players that you are going to be wanting to both trade for as well as trade away. Maybe they had a great week. Maybe these players had an absolutely shit week. They took a dump on your chest like they were Odell Beckham Jr.'s girlfriend, and you're sitting here just wondering, why has this happened to me? Why do I want them on my team? And then someone is going to be sorry, and they're going to be like, you know what? I don't want this player anymore. He sucks ass. And then you're going to go in there and swindle him, dip, dive, and dodge, just like you're playing dodgeball. And then you're going to go ahead and get that player. So before we get into it, I'd first like to introduce you guys to my partner, my compadre, the good cop, and I'm the bad cop. Actually, no, he's the bad cop. I'm the good cop of this. So we got Tyler Moss, NFL, right here. Tyler, introduce yourself real quick.
I'm the sexy cop. Whoa. Hi, Tyler Moss, NFL. I'm having a lot of fun. We're getting crazy here. The sport has been rolling. Loving what's going on there. You can check that out as articles. You can get your fantasy advice in the reading form. If you can't keep up with the hot shooting takes of Nick, maybe you want to read them. Check them out there. Also got another site in the works. I'm a grinding man behind the scenes, so we're getting a lot of things cooking over here. If you have fantasy questions, you could always DM me at Tyler Moss NFL, and probably I'll get 60% of them right. So you know what? If you want that kind of consistency, I'm your man. Great to be on here again for Trade Talks. Woo!
Yes, let's get into it. So today, we're first going to start with the trade for. So I'm going to begin here with my number one player to trade for here this week. That's James Robinson, running back of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Now, I know what you might be thinking, Nick. Why do you want to trade for James Robinson, right? Who the fuck is James Robinson? To be honest with you, I had no idea who James Robinson was before this year. But hey, running back number 14 right now. Now, obviously, it's not that difficult to finish as like a top 15 guy when we're just 2 weeks into the NFL season. But hey, it definitely does mean something when you can run for 21 PPR points up against a pretty solid run defense in the Tennessee Titans last week. 16 carries for over 100 yards, 1 rushing touchdown, 3 receptions on 4 targets in that game. Now, obviously, you shouldn't buy completely in on James Robinson potentially being a top 10 running back, but I don't think anyone's really bought in, if they have James Robinson, on him being a consistent 15 to 20 points on a given week. And I frankly think that that take is correct. I think that he will be getting that amount of points every single week. I just think that the Jacksonville Jaguars like to run the ball with one running back. Last year, we saw Leonard Fournette run the ball 7,000 times. This year, I think we see James Robinson do the same thing. Week 1, he was the only running back involved getting touches out of the backfield. Same thing goes with week number 2. The only guys running the ball besides him were Laviska Shenault as well as Gardner Minshew. So I think that James Robinson is going to be studded in here to be one of those workhorse running backs. Sure, he's not on the greatest team in the Jacksonville Jaguars, but Gardner Minshew wills these guys to win. He gets them fired up when they look at that sexy mustache that man has. So I'm all bought in on James Robinson, and I think James Robinson is going to have an excellent season, and his stock is only going to continue to go up after people see that he is going to be as consistent as I believe he is going to be. So I like him. This week he goes up against the Miami Dolphins. It could get a bit dangerous for James Robinson. Could have a pretty solid game even as a Dolphins fan. So Tyler, what are your thoughts on James Robinson?
Yeah, once a few weeks ago, Tyler once said maybe you should trade everyone in Jacksonville because that's going to be a tire fire. And you know what? I'm going to say that I'm a little bit wrong here. I'm okay with admitting that. I'm not going to lie to you. Nick's big smart. He knows, okay, this is what's going up. He's actually getting the ball, and Jacksonville's keeping games close. I thought they were just going to get ran in like the first couple of quarters and would just pass the entire game. And I'm not saying there wouldn't have been close games, but like they were just going to play from behind the whole time. Well, that's not really the case. Garner God, next Brady, okay, 6th round. Fantastic value right now. He's been incredible, and it's made this run game click. And then one thing I do want to shout out, because it's not my pick, but it's definitely something that's got to be taken watch. Laviska Shenault is being used correctly. This is what he was kind of used like in college. This is fantastic. I mean, he got, what, 5 rushing carries? He got
5.
5 rushing carries, and I think it was 4 receptions. So that's why I was messing it up. But, like, he's getting touches. He's getting a lot. They're working him in. That's their 2. Yeah, he's a guy that I'm definitely saying trade for, even though he's not my candidate here. So, yeah, quick mention to him. He's been fantastic.
For sure. Now we can go into Tyler's first player to talk about that he is looking for.
Yeah, so this pick is so is solely schedule based. You'll start seeing me try and work in some later, back half of the year kind of schedule guys, and this is going to be my first installment of it. His name's Austin Eckler. He's been relatively shaky. He looked really good with Herbert. He's not going to look really good in the upcoming weeks. Carolina, he may stomp, and that's fair. He may just do that in the rushing game, but there was reports came out today that when Tyrod Taylor's 100% healthy, that's their guy, and I'm like, what? Like it's almost like they didn't watch the game, and that was really disappointing because I really saw something in Herbert. I didn't love him, but I saw something in Eckler, and I love that. The 4 receptions was a giant boost. 4 targets was a giant boost over last week where he only had one. 4 receptions as well, so goes hand in hand. And it looks like we're going to see Tyrod for like the next couple of weeks. And after Carolina, he's got Tampa and New Orleans. So either way, that's not really a good situation to be running the ball. You got to be active in the pass. And if Tyrod's your quarterback, you're not going to see him be all that active in the passing game. I think after that New Orleans game, I think that's where they draw the line. They're like, okay, let's go back to Herbert. He looked really good. And what happens then? You get the Jets. You get Miami. You get Jacksonville, you get Las Vegas, you get a bye week, then you go to Denver, and you get Denver twice on the back half. You get Buffalo and New England in 12 and 13. But 13 New England, that could be interesting. And then you get this is the fantasy playoffs for Austin Eckler. The Atlanta Falcons, the Las Vegas Raiders, the Denver Broncos. I mean, come on. That's going to be gorgeous. You're going to win your fantasy years from Austin Eckler. And I genuinely believe this is something you've got to look long term. I think trades are a lot more long term than they are immediate. Start looking at Austin Eckler because in the next 3 weeks there's some interesting matchups, I would say, but they definitely have a chance to do some work after those kind of tough games. So that's my number one.
Yeah, and there's also a chance that Anthony Lynn is just completely lying straight to our face. He could be saying this, trying to keep Tyrod not sad, but in reality, it could be Justin Herbert's job on Sunday. You just really have no idea when it comes down to that. Obviously, like you said, if it's going to be not Anthony Lynn, it's going to be Herbert playing the fucking quarterback, then he's going to dominate. He'd love throwing the ball to Austin Eckler, just like you would expect because he's a rookie quarterback. And I actually found something that rookie quarterbacks don't actually dump the ball off as much to running backs, but I still believe it, even though the facts don't say it. So I'm going to go ahead and believe that Austin Eckler is going to be very good after maybe these tough couple of games, as long as Ty God gets benched. And I'm not even sure that Tyrod Taylor plays this Sunday. Maybe his chest hurts because his job's going to get stolen again by a rookie quarterback. Shout out to Baker Mayfield, even though Tyler hates Baker Mayfield. So next player to talk about here, and we are going to be talking about Baker Mayfield a little bit later. And my next player to trade for is going to be Allen Robinson, wide receiver of the Chicago Bears. Now, week 1, he played up against the Detroit Lions and played quite well. He had 5 receptions on 9 targets, 74 receiving yards. He did have a rush for -1 yards, but that's okay because he scored 12.3 PPR points. Now, obviously, he has not gotten what you would assume if you drafted him in the second round. You're thinking this guy's 15-plus points on a weekly basis. Instead, that last week up against the New York Football Giants, he only had 3 receptions on 9 targets for 33 receiving yards and 6.3 PPR points. So what my understanding is that Allen Robinson is one of the best wide receivers, in my opinion, in the NFL on a talent standpoint. Not saying that he's like a top 10 fantasy wide receiver, because right now he just isn't, but he does have the potential to be a top 12, top 10 guy on a weekly basis. The thing here is that Mitch Trubisky just has to become more accurate. But another thing to look forward to is if Mitch Trubisky continues to play like shit, they're going to play Nick Foles eventually if he plays this bad. But note, Allen Robinson played very good last year with Mitch Trubisky. They clearly still have that connection. Last week was a case of they just ran the ball 7 million times because the New York Football Giants could not stop David Montgomery. So I think that Allen Robinson in the next coming weeks, when they face tougher matchups, when the game is much closer, we will see him be much more involved. Like I said, against the Detroit Lions, he had 12.3 points. You want to know why? Because they were behind in the game and they had to pass. Where for the New York Football Giants, they were kind of just riding the game out. They were winning. They were just running the ball, so they didn't have to throw the ball as much. So I think that we do see Mitch Trubisky look much better as the year goes on. I think Allen Robinson really starts to get better. I drafted him in a lot of leagues to be a wide receiver 1, and I'm not just saying this because I told you guys to draft him. I actually believe he will become that guy. So what do you think about Mr. A-Rob?
Yeah, you want to talk about a guy with a fantastic playoff schedule, and I mean this so much. this is gorgeous. I mean, Detroit in week 13, so the week before you start your playoffs. In 14, you get Houston. Name a quarterback on the Houston Texans. You can't. Minnesota, they have Gladney, who they drafted, but outside that, name a cornerback that they have, and then you get Jacksonville in your playoffs in the championships.
Yeah.
I mean, that's gorgeous. They've got a few tough games. I mean, he's going to blow up Atlanta next week. So this is a very, very tight window to trade for, but I recommend you go ahead and do it. Indianapolis, Tampa after that, those are two kind of rough ones. You get Carolina. He's going to get clamped by Ramsey. He's going to get clamped by, we just watched him play. The New Orleans, anyways.
Marshon
Lattimore. So he's got some interesting games where I think we're going to see a lot of up and down from him. You may be able to trade just off of that. People are like, he's inconsistent. I can't work with him. Well, they're not looking at the playoff schedule because that's just gorgeous. That's one of the best playoff schedules I've seen. Week 13 through 16. If you just want to find a wide receiver who's going to consistently be a 1 for like 4 weeks during your playoffs, go for Allen Robinson. That's a fantastic pickup.
Yeah, I completely agree. So, Tyler, what is your next player to be talking about here to trade for?
Yeah, so trading for him, this is just solely based off the fact that, he had a down game, and I really don't believe that's going to continue. He's got a hamstring issue. That's fine. I think he'll get through it. I think it's Julio. I mean, Julio Jones. He's going to do good things against tough defenses. He's the kind of guy where there's a stretch after these next two games where he goes, the Bears come to them, and then Green Bay, he has to go to them. After that, it's Carolina, it's Minnesota, it's Detroit, it's Carolina, it's Denver, right up to week 10, which is where most people's trade deadlines are. And when that hits, sell the hell out of them, because this is one of the toughest playoff schedules I'm seeing. The Chargers are fantastic when it comes to stopping the pass. That's your week 14. Your week 13 is New Orleans. You get Tampa in week 15. And Kansas City in week 16, which is a good matchup, but it's going to be too late. I doubt Julio drags you all the way through the playoffs with that tough a schedule, but he's got a great window where he's going to get you a lot of wins because he's going to be putting up monster games. So that's what you're looking for. And then you can sell him for pretty good value, more than you're going to pay for him right now. That's what you should be looking to do with him. It's a pick up and then move kind of situation. If you have a league that's active in trading, I recommend you do this. Now, some leagues you got to keep in mind, you may see like a trade every couple of weeks, and that's when you're like, you can't pull off those quick moves like that. But if you can move pieces around and get Julio and then trade Julio, that's what I would do. Because again, the middle of the schedule is delicious. It's going to win you weeks, but that back half is tough, and you're not going to get to the playoffs if Julio's your one.
Yeah, I think Julio's going to, obviously, last week, he literally had a wide open touchdown, could have scored, thrown by Russell fucking Gage, and he just drops it, right? He's like, he's wide open, he sees the end zone, right? And that's why I dropped it, because when he sees the end zone, it's just no bueno. His hands turn off, they just go away, because he doesn't, I almost just made a really messed up joke, but he's running towards the end zone, he just loses his hands. He just doesn't fucking catch the ball. You might have gotten where I was going there. But with that said, it just wasn't, he's like Patchy the fucking pirate or something when he's near the end zone, all right? It's embarrassing. He can't do anything. And I don't know, man. I don't know what the fuck is wrong with Julio Jones sometimes. He shit the bed last week, but now people may actually be worried. They might be thinking Calvin Ridley's the wide receiver 1. That may be true. May be true, but Julio Jones is still going to be very good in that offense until the guy fucking rolls over and dies. So I think Julio Jones is going to be great for the next couple of weeks. I think he's going to bounce back, and I'm not too worried about that injury, like Tyler said. So now we are on to the part of the video where we're going to be talking about guys to hit with the Michael Jordan trade away, not the fade away. We're trading these guys away. We're saying, yeet, get the fuck out of here. We don't want you on our roster. Why? For many reasons. Now, before we get into this, I'd like to give you guys a word from my friends and my sponsor over at OverlayDFS.com. Overlay DFS has introduced a new fantasy football game for the 2020 fantasy football season. It is called the Matchup Shop. It is the player versus player game that includes real-life aspects of betting with the spread. So pretty much it's fantasy points of a player versus fantasy points of another player, just with the addition of the spread. So in this scenario right here, we have Matt Ryan versus Mitch Trubisky. If you bet Mitch Trubisky, you get an additional 8.5 fantasy points, whereas if you bet Matt Ryan, you lose negative 8.5 fantasy points for that game. Who wins head-to-head with the spread is going to be the winner. It is very simple. Anyone can figure it out. Even I can win on there. So thank you guys all for listening to this spiel real quick. Make sure you guys check it out because you guys do all that research and you want to win some money with it. Make sure you check out overlaydfs.com. Link down below in the description. Boom, we're back. Check that out. Trade away, my trade away guy, number 1, James Conner, Pittsburgh running back. Week 2, he goes up against the Denver Broncos, right? He just dominates them. He bends them over and is smacking their ass while he's doing ungodly things to them, all right? 106 rushing yards, 1 rushing touchdown, 2 receptions on 2 targets, 15 receiving yards, and 20.1 PPR points. Interesting to note, you want to know who also scored 20.1? Actually, no, never mind. James Robinson scored more points than him last week, just so you know. James Conner is the worst James out of Robinson and Conner. James Conner, literally week 1, gets hurt, right? The woes about him, oh, this guy's injury prone, right? And then you're thinking, you know what? He will play good when he's healthy. And I completely agree. When James Conner is healthy is amazing. He's one of the better running backs in the NFL. But the when is he going to be healthy? You have no fucking idea. This guy might get hurt tying his shoelace tomorrow morning and he'll be out for the rest of the season. So my opinion of it is sell him off this big game. Try to get someone even reasonably close to them. Even if you feel like maybe, hey, I'm kind of losing this trade. When Conner's healthy, this is going to seem like an idiotic trade. But hey, I believe James Conner will probably get hurt again. Knock on wood. Let's hope he doesn't. But at the end of the day, he could end up getting hurt again, and I just feel like this was the prime time, like your Deion Sanders, to sell this man. So what do you think about James Conner?
I think you have a vendetta against this guy. I feel bad.
No, I actually like him. He won my championship a couple years ago. So
I feel bad for James Conner. You hate this man.
No, I like him.
You're going to continue pounding him into the dirt, and I don't really mind it. Again, the inconsistencies, you just can't play with that kind of fire because that's kind of what it is. You're playing with fire when you're messing with James Conner. So it's just not a situation that's something I like, in all honesty. So with that being said, I think there's some value you can move him for. He's had 2 really, really good weeks. I think you try and get him out just to get a feeler. I think if you can package him in a deal with a guy like Eckler, and you're like looking down the road maybe a little bit, and you're like, okay. Maybe in a couple weeks, I say, let's move off Conner. You're still kind of playing with fire of the chances that he does go down, but he does have Houston next week. So maybe after week 3, when he goes through Houston and probably puts up a really good number as well, the schedule definitely gets tougher down the line. So maybe you try and trade him for a guy like Austin Eckler. It's not going to be straight up. You're going to have to move at least one other piece with that. But that's the kind of guy I would look for. That's kind of connecting who we think you should trade for and who you should trade away. James Conner's just risky.
Just whiskey, that's what I'm saying. Just
risky
whiskey.
For the biscuit. That's what they say.
Definitely. So, Tyler, who's your trade away player?
Yeah, so Philip Lindsay's going to come back. There's no doubt. Melvin Gordon, congrats. You had a good week. You get Tampa next week. Enjoy that. Enjoy your good week. There's a good chance Lindsay may be out for the Jets game, but after that, he's probably coming back. So you either trade him now, you let him die on your team this week, and you play him against the Jets, and that's really it. Because then you got New England, and at that point, it's back to a committee. Like, it doesn't even matter that they have Miami. They got like Kansas City there. They got Atlanta. I mean, it doesn't matter because they're going to be in a committee, and it's not something you want. So if you can move Melvin Gordon, I'd recommend you do. That's really my case. Not that he's a bad player, just it's a committee backfield.
Yeah, no, I agree. It really is. I mean, it seemed like Philip Lindsay was going to straight up take the job from him, right? He fumbles week 1 against Tennessee, I think it was, on Monday night. He fumbles the ball. Seems like, oh, now it's going to be Philip Lindsay's time. And then Philip Lindsay said, you know what, let me just break my leg or whatever he did. And, he took break a leg too literally when the coach told it to him. So Melvin Gordon now going to probably be good for next week up against the Jets, and he's going to be completely fucking atrocious. So go ahead, ship him off, send him away for really anything, to be honest with you. I'm not a big fan of Melvin Gordon. Wasn't coming into the season due to the committee, and the committee came true because it's literally going to be a 50-50 split between him and Philip Lindsay. Do you have any closing remarks about Melvin Gordon here? Or
no, I don't, but I'll talk about my other pick because it's the exact same situation, except whoa, it's no longer 2 people. There's apparently a third.
There's like 7.
What do you mean?
There's 7 people in the backfield.
There is. It's ridiculous because you got to count Lamar too. everyone in the Ravens backfield. It,
The Raiders.
if that Raiders. Josh Jacobs. So what I'm saying is Ingram. I'm talking. So he had the touchdown this week. Cool. I mean, who would have predicted? Dobbins had the touchdowns the week before. Gus Edwards decided to enter himself into the conversation and took 10 rushing attempts in this one. It looks like Dobbins is getting a little bit more receiving work. Gus Edwards is not getting any. Ingram's getting some. It's tough. Who do you play? Who do you play? There's
No one.
guys now, and you can't trust any of them. If this isn't Dynasty, Dynasty, I recommend you kind of capitalize on the Dobbins just like low hype now because he was way overhyped going in. But you kind of capitalize off of the minimal hype that there is right now for him. But if it's in redraft, I don't want any three options because 3 running backs is way worse than 2. That's all I got to say. And you got to count Lamar because he's running too. It's just a really bad situation to have players.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, J.K. Dobbins, like he looks like by far the best one. He literally got 2 touches last week, had 44 yards. So he's by far the best one there, but they're just not going to commit to him because big trust, woo, Mark Ingram is still there. So you're just going to get fucked over by that. So just ship them all off and run away from those guys. So now we're going to be talking about kind of a shitty situation. And I'm talking about Odell Beckham Jr.
It's every week. Why? I mean, you just attack the same players every week. I feel bad for these guys. Like,
dude, Odell likes getting shit on, okay? So that's just a fact. So Odell Beckham Jr., Cleveland Browns wide receiver, right? The problem with Odell is not that he's a bad player because I think he is actually a pretty solid player. The problem here is that in games he just disappears, but he doesn't disappear from like the stat. He does disappear from the stat sheet, but the target sheet, you know, there's a zillion targets for him, right? But he just doesn't fucking catch any. Week 1 against the Ravens, 3 receptions on 10 targets, 22 yards, right? That's a great week for 5 whole fucking points, right? You love Odell Beckham Jr. Then week 2, he plays up against the garbage ass Cincinnati Bengals, right? A team that Tyler could go out there and probably score a touchdown on. Okay, 4 receptions on 6 targets for 74 yards, 1 touchdown, 17.4 points. So you're like, you know what, Nick? That's a great game, right? He did that over the whole game. No, nada. False. In the first half of the game, he goes off. He goes to town. He double taps that Cincinnati ass. And then, you know what happens in the second half? He just disappears like a goddamn ghost that Sammy Mata would end up seeing on the field. So I have no idea why you would even want to keep Odell. You saw him have a good game, right? You saw him do what he always does. He's one of those guys that's like, he does the special in the night games, right? Unlike Mr. Kirk Cousins, who anytime it turns to nighttime, he disappears. He runs away. He's like, I'm fucking out of here. I don't like that, right? But then during these games, he's screaming that you like that. You remember his best ever play, reach back like 1-3, touchdown against the shitty-ass Cowboys, makes them look stupid, right? That was on, I think it was Sunday night or Monday night.
Sunday night game.
Last year. Destroys the Jets on like Thursday night, right? And then the rest of the season, the guy's sleeping, all right? Sleeping. And then we just saw it happen again. Thursday night, Odell sees the bright lights. He's going crazy, right? And then next week, doesn't even matter who they're playing. Doesn't matter at all. He's not going to do good. I promise you that. Let me see who they're playing, actually, Tyler. Do you know who they're playing?
The Browns. So the Browns are going against the Washington
Football team.
I can't use the other name. The Washington team. And then they go against Dallas. And then they go against Indy. And then they go against Pittsburgh. Like run from him. He is not going to be good for you.
Yeah, no, I'm very scared. Like I'm like a girl's best friend, you know. He's not good for you. That's what we're talking about, Odell Beckham Jr. He's just not good for your team.
We are never getting back together with Odell. Taylor Swift. Yeah, you like that. Should we do this? Because I think we should talk about our week 2 and kind of wrap, maybe talk about like where we went wrong and where we went right. I don't know. I think it's an improvement game. So we'll start with your pick, right? You picked Eckler to trade for, and I'm saying trade for him again. So Nick is big smart. That's the truth.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, last week I need to pull up exactly who I called for because I think our Mixon call still kind of suspect. We did call for you guys to pick up. Now you can still probably get him, but his price is probably much higher, I would think, right? After going from 6 points to 12 points, you would just think. I called for George Kittle. Terrible call. The guy got hurt.
That's not fair. It's not George Kittle. It's Garoppolo's down and like the defense. There's a chance this team may fight for that number one.
All right, but look who's really sharp here though. Trade away Raheem Mostert. You know where Raheem Mostert is? In the hospital. All right.
Jeez. So my picks, I said Cleveland backfield. You're welcome. For no one that listened to me, you should be. Come on, big brain. DeAndre Hopkins gets his first touchdown. Bingo. So my 2 trade fours, I feel like an absolute sharp. And then I picked 3 trade aways, and 2 of them on the nose. Miles Sanders actually had a pretty decent game. I knew he was going to. It was just more or less, I think the line sucks, and they got more
They're playing
injured.
the Rams.
Yeah, and Malcolm Brown, told you. And DeAndre Swift, you know what? I think I may have to take that one on the chin too. DeAndre Swift was kind of all right, but it's still a 3-person committee. It's like the Ravens, except less efficient. So,
Yeah, and I mean, I tend to trade away Robbie Anderson, which I guess is just wrong because Teddy Bridgewater just likes to throw him the ball. But I don't know. Like the waiver wire video, you guys will already seen it. He's a pickup for me, but by God, I have no fucking idea what he's gonna do next week. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if Robbie Anderson scored literally 2 points, or if he scores 30. Like, it would not surprise me. That's the range of outcomes for Robbie Anderson. He's either gonna completely destroy your team, do you dirty without any use of lube, or he's gonna go to town not using lube on the other team. So with that said, I think we are going to be able to close it out here. So, Tyler, would you like to say any closing remarks before we get out of here?
yeah, if you're looking to write for me, the sporter.site, please join us. Tyler Moss NFL is where you can contact me for that. I'm not going to hot drop my email here. I do not need spam, although I'd love that. I would love that. That'd be electric. Check us out on the live stream. You guys have been killing that. You've been finding us on Sundays. We do occasional Thursdays, right? So definitely check out our live streams. And yeah, definitely follow my Twitter. I got a few things coming soon, along with my Sporter website. So a lot of big things. College kids, find me. Tyler Moss NFL, message me. I'll give you details after that.
All right. So thank you guys all for watching. We definitely murdered this video like our name was OJ Simpson. So thank you guys all for watching. Bang, 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 bang. Make sure to check out overlaydfs.com. Link down below in the description. They are my boys. I love them over there. And we're just eating W's over there, winning so much money. It's just simple. It's simple. You go on there, you play, you eat the W's like your name was James Winston. So have a great rest of your guys' day. I'll see you motherfuckers tomorrow with another video, and you'll also see me and Tyler together, maybe on Thursday, definitely on Sunday, though, you'll see us together. So I don't think Tyler will be there on Thursday, but it's okay. I'll be myself.
That would hurt my feelings.
Okay, you are going to come.
Fine. 16.
All right,
Good night.
have a great rest of your guys' day. Very nice.